In the ending months of spring, an excited young mountaineer decided to pack up and leave for some fun. Little did he know that this trip would turn out to be fateful in ways unimaginable. He packed his bags, slung them into his car, and started his journey to Blue John Canyon in eastern Wayne County, Utah. He brought along no friends. He had left no note or message, nor did he tell anyone about his plans. The only thing anyone knew was that he was going for another bout of canyoneering. He arrived at the Horseshoe Canyon, geared up, and then started perusing the various starting points. Since he had had a lot of experience mountaineering, he kept a few items with him which might come in handy: a water bottle, flashlight, a pocket knife among them. He starts climbing through the crevices of the canyon. Further down he goes, the climb becomes more challenging. While going down, he tries to tread as carefully as possible. And then, wham! In the lower areas of the canyon, a large boulder suspended between the walls crashed down. It first hit his left hand, and then it crushed his right one against the wall of the canyon, and stayed lodged into place. With the right hand crushed and stuck in between the boulder and the canyon wall, he was stuck, injured, and all alone. The physical pain and suffering was certainly a lot more urgent for Aaron Ralston, the famous mountaineer. But there are many instances of suffering, heartbreak, and setbacks in almost all of our lives. Perhaps not as physical, but very urgent nonetheless. Sometimes it is very easy for us to get stuck in between the walls of circumstances. Every day, someone encounters something which would simply shake others to their core. Every day, someone is trying to hustle for his next meal. An employee is fighting hard to keep her job. An employer is suddenly realizing that his business is failing. Worst yet, every day, many people are afflicted with illnesses, or somebody loses a loved one. If we take a moment to look around, we might be shocked. After all, almost everyone around us is dealing with some pretty messed up stuff. How can people just go on? How do they not just fall? Martin Seligman, one of the greatest modern psychologists, has an answer to that question. In his theory of happiness, Seligman talks about 3 levels of experiencing happiness. There is the pleasant life, in which we savor human emotions. One level further is the good life, in which we utilize our individual strengths and put them to good use. And at the highest level, there is a meaningful life. A life in which we find fulfillment in pursuing a goal greater than us, pursuing meaning. Perhaps that is exactly what Nietzsche meant when he wrote in his book Twilight of the Idols, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." Suspended between the 2 walls, with his hand crushed and stuck by the boulder above him, Aaron was frantic. He searched for ways to get out of there. He knew that he hadn't told anyone about his whereabouts. It would be very difficult for him to survive without any assistance. At first, the mountaineer tried to wriggle his hand out. That seemed to be a lost cause. The boulder wouldn't budge. Then he attempted to move the boulder itself, but again, to no avail. The 700+ kilo boulder was just too heavy. He spent 4 days trying to wriggle out and move the boulder. His water bottle had finally run out. So had his food supply. On the 5th day, he was trying to survive drinking his own urine. He carved his details on the stone. At long last, it seemed that he was ready to give up. To live is to suffer, Nietzsche once said. That is unfortunately the truth of human life. As conscious beings who remember an astonishing amount of details, we are much more aware of our losses. The most draining time of our lives, however, is when there seems to be no way out. And we experience that multiple times throughout our stay in this world. If we are really all that worthy, why would we just wish to give up? Why would we have to consciously think about getting to a better place? This is where we reveal the quote we used earlier. in its entirety, to live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in that suffering. And that is the missing piece in the puzzle of life. There has to be a good reason for why you are living. There has to be meaning behind things you do to make them count. On the 5th night of being incapacitated in the Blue John Canyon, Aaron saw something peculiar. He saw himself playing with a child, his future child. And while they were playing, Aaron noticed that a part of his right arm was missing. That is the revelation, hallucination, whatever you want to call it, which fired up the young man. Following the dawn of the new day, Aaron realized that he would have to cut his right arm along with the bones in it. So he broke his arm, moving and jerking it at a certain angle. And he cut off the rest of his arm using the dull knife he had remembered to bring with himself. Within an hour, he was free. Hurt, exhausted, hungry, thirsty, but alive. The simple truth of the matter is that we are not enough for ourselves. Our goals mean less to us when they are only about us. When we do not know what we are doing it for, does that action of doing it really matter to us? There has to be meaning. There has to be something more than the mundane. When we have figured that out, we will know how to live. At least, we have a great example in the mountaineer who made it out of the jaws of death, because he found meaning in his suffering.